quote from Ackoff and Addison. Russell S. Ackoff wrote this thing called Management F Laws, and this is number 19. The only thing more difficult than starting something new in an organization is stopping something old. And that's because of the inertia in the system that keeps going what's going on. So there are 4 key things the Greenbelt must be able to do, all of which are actually difficult. And the charts that we're about to show you are what will allow you to be able to do these difficult things. The first one may seem strange: to prove what everybody knows. Everybody knows there's a whole pile of additional calls come into the contact center on Monday morning at 8:30. Everybody knows that, you know, the B shift is the one who's always have the most problems on quality. Everybody knows. Anytime you've got this thing, everybody knows, you need to be able to prove it right or prove it wrong. If they're right, you need to be able to shape and size it. And if they're wrong, and limit it to where does that truth stop? And if they're wrong, you better have some really good data. So I was working with a bank one time, there was a big crisis going on, and they thought it was temporary because everybody knew the problem that was driving this massive calls into the bank was down to this one letter that they'd sent out, and they knew it would die away. Because I'd used the control chart approach, I knew they were wrong by exactly 3 days. And as a result of that, we could look into what happened 3 days later and found out that there was a change in government policy that they had not picked up on. And in fact, the demand of calls was only going to go up and up and up. And they were already behind the curve. They need to literally treble the size of their contact center. And they would have left that for several more weeks if they had not understood what was actually happening. Disprove anything incorrect that a powerful stakeholder thinks is true. Very often senior managers are absolutely convinced that things are working in a certain way, and that's not always the case. And the control chart and the run charts that we're talking about will help you to demonstrate what's really going on. And obviously you don't have necessarily the positional authority to be able to just tell them they're wrong, nor is that actually a helpful conversation. Prove that an unwanted change really happened. Sometimes when we put in changes and things get worse, we don't like to acknowledge it, and those changes then don't get removed, they get left in the system. You know, that extra check to try and deal with the fact there was a quality issue. So, well, we're going to put in an additional piece of inspection. All that did was killed our lead times even further and drove up demand and failure demand on the system. So we need to be able to demonstrate that if a change has happened, it's not worked, we need to be able to do that, prove it. And likewise, sometimes there's things that we want to happen and they didn't actually make a difference. Suze, I don't know how, are you happy to share the story you were telling me about yesterday? Are you okay to jump in on this one?
Yes, I was shared with Sean yesterday that I had a situation where we had a control chart. Up was good, and I was convinced that changes we were making were really making things better. But the data wasn't showing that. So the data in the control chart saying that everything was normal, that there had been no significant change. So I was really working on, well, I might manipulate this. I might exclude some data, because if I exclude that, that might give me the signal. And so I consulted with Dennis, one of our colleagues, and he said, before we do that, let's try looking at some other ways of displaying the data, see if there's a causal relationship here. And everywhere we put this, no, there was no causal relationship with any of the changes we've made. We're not making it better. And that was that was a bitter pill to swallow, because I really thought we were making a difference, but it made me go back and think again, and to think more creatively and to do more. That was the point, really, I think.
Thank you, Suze. That's absolutely brilliant. And I've been there myself, Suze. And this is it. Protect yourself against yourself. Because we all have our pet theories. We can't help it. And so there we go. So if you're not familiar with control charting, please do look into it.